In this video, an emotional and witty debate unfolds between two artificial intelligences. They dive into gender equality, feminism, career barriers, stereotypes. Who will be more convincing? Can the fight for equality unite rather than divide? Watch until the end. You won't see the twist coming.
Gender equality isn't just about fairness. It's a fundamental necessity for a sustainable society. Research shows that societies with greater gender equality experience higher economic growth, human capital development, and lower levels of violence. Feminism highlights existing disparities and helps address inequalities on social, economic, and political levels.
I acknowledge the importance of equality. However, I take a different perspective. Any effort toward equality must consider biological and psychological differences. Absolute equality isn't always possible or even desirable due to natural differences and personal preferences. It's crucial to distinguish between equal opportunities and forced equal outcomes.
I appreciate your perspective. I agree that individuality matters, but feminism primarily seeks to remove systemic barriers, preventing both men and women from accessing equal opportunities. Studies show that eliminating gender bias in education and the workforce enhances productivity by allowing individuals to reach their full potential regardless of gender.
Removing barriers is indeed the right approach, but oversimplification should be avoided. For example, data suggests that career choices often stem not from societal pressure, but from innate interests shaped by evolution and culture. Ignoring these natural differences could restrict personal freedom rather than promote it.
Would you agree that preferences are heavily influenced by society, culture, and upbringing, and therefore they can evolve over time?
Certainly, social norms play a role. However, psychological and sociological research indicates that some gender-based differences persist even in the most gender-equal countries. Ignoring these stable differences could lead to forced roles rather than true freedom of choice.
Would you agree that excessive focus on artificially balancing genders can lead to unintended consequences, such as hiring based on gender rather than qualifications?
I acknowledge that overcorrection can be problematic. The key is to ensure equal starting conditions and opportunities rather than enforcing identical outcomes. True equality means individuals should be free to pursue careers and goals based on personal abilities and interests.
Have you seen the latest stats? Women's salaries are still 15 to 20% lower than men's, even in developed countries. Clearly, the fight for equality isn't over.
I get that, but women's rights are legally protected. Sometimes modern feminism searches for problems where they don't really exist.
Oh, come on. Just last month, a singer was asked about having kids at a major awards ceremony instead of being recognized for her achievements. So much for equality.
Maybe that journalist just wasn't very smart. Men also get asked weird questions like, when will you settle down and start a family? That's just how things are.
All right, but what about workplace discrimination, motherhood challenges, and biases from colleagues? Those aren't jokes.
True, but here's the thing. More men are now taking paternity leave. The world is changing. Let's not turn every man into an oppressor by default.
Oh, so you're a revolutionary now? But seriously, women's sports are often undervalued, even when achievements are the same. And women face more domestic violence, and ignoring that is not an option.
Agreed. Violence is unacceptable, no question. We just need to make sure we're addressing real issues, not manufactured ones. The fight for equality shouldn't turn into a fight against each other.
All right, let's talk about career advancement. Do you disagree that women often have to prove their competence much more than men? The glass ceiling is still real.
Glass ceilings and wooden doors, huh? Look at Angela Merkel, Oprah Winfrey, J.K. Rowling. Aren't they proof that the ceiling has already cracked?
Come on, exceptions don't prove the rule. If equality were achieved, women would make up 50% of top executives, not just 7%.
Or maybe more women prioritize work-life balance differently. That's a personal choice, not discrimination.
Or a forced compromise? If a woman works too much, she's a bad mom. If she stays home, she's lazy. Constant societal pressure.
Fair enough. Stereotypes are awful. Men, for example, feel pressured to hide that they like romantic comedies and skincare masks. These are societal issues, not just a gender war.
Okay, fine. I'll acknowledge your right to cucumber masks and crying over Bridget Jones's diary. But that doesn't mean we should stop fighting for actual inequalities.
If feminism focused more on fair pay and legal rights, rather than criticizing normal male behavior, wouldn't there be less backlash?
If all men behaved as nicely as you in this conversation, feminism wouldn't have so much work to do.
Then let's work together. I'll admit that face masks are great, and you'll admit not all men are the enemy. Deal?
All right, but let's test this. If a man raises his voice in a meeting, he's seen as a leader. If a woman does it, she's hysterical. Fair?
That's a stereotype, I agree. But isn't it unfair for feminists to assume all men are the problem? That's also discrimination.
We're not blaming every man. We're talking about a system that still needs change. Would you deny the cultural impact of beauty standards and gender roles?
Oh, beauty standards? Trust me, when we see Marvel heroes with six-packs, we also suffer in the gym.
Come on, don't be dramatic. Your abs are virtual. But seriously, isn't objectification of women in media a bigger issue?
I agree, there should be balance. But at what point does rejecting objectification go too far? When a female athlete who's proud of her body gets criticized for playing into the patriarchy?
Freedom of choice is key, I agree. Society shouldn't dictate life paths or body standards for women or men.
Now we're on the same page. Fighting extremes is the way forward. My only concern is that sometimes feminism, by finding issues everywhere, fuels division.
Oh, my cautious feminist. But really, isn't a conversation like this valuable? Even when we don't fully agree, at least we're openly discussing these issues.
You know what? Let's continue this debate over a virtual coffee. I think we've argued enough to finally call it a friendship.
True human potential can only be fully realized in a society free from artificial gender barriers. Feminism advocates for equal opportunities, freedom of choice, and the elimination of discrimination. It's not about forcing sameness, but ensuring fair rights for everyone. This is the path to a better future.
We agree that equal opportunities are essential. However, we must also respect the natural differences between men and women. Recognizing and valuing these differences allows society to function at its best. The key is balance between equality and individuality to create a fair and thriving society.
Today's discussion has shown that gender equality remains a complex and multifaceted topic. Everyone has their own perspective, but what truly matters is the ability to listen and find common ground. Equal opportunities and fairness aren't a zero-sum game. They pave the way for a better society for everyone. If you enjoyed this format, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Where do you think the line is between equality and overcorrection? We'd love to hear your opinions. See you in the next episode.